Hello, dear children. Today we will revise the second chapter, that is Historiography, Indian Tradition. Now, since we are revising this chapter, so we are just going to see the highlights or the important things which are covered in this chapter. Bakhar. Bakhar is Bakhar means to tell the news or record of happenings, whatever has happened in the past, if that is recorded and recited, and that is the way it is recorded and transformed from one generation to another. It is called as Bakhar. It is also called as the biography of the eminent statements of the Maratha period. Now, the earlier Bakhars had a lot of Arabic influence. Now, many scholars believe that the word Bakhar is derived from the Arabic word khabar. Bakhars are historical narratives in prose form and have a great importance as sources of history. So, there are many Bakhars written, like more than 200 Bakhars have been written between 1760 to 1850. Now, Bakhars are also looked upon as a form of prose literature rather than historical source. Now, Bakhar. It contains eulogies of the heroes and stories of historic events, battles, and lives of great men. So, it can be based on the great deeds of the heroes and the stories of historical events. It can be based on some particular battle, how it was fought, and etc., all the details relating to it. And also it is sometimes based on the lives of great men. So we can see that there is a variety of topics on which Bakhars are written. So now these types of Bakhar, this can also come in the form of a web, the way it is given just now. Also, if it comes in the form of a short note or something, with the help of these types and this explanation, you can elaborate and write it as a short note or answer in brief sort of. So the types of Bakhar: state administration by the kings. So how their states were administered by the kings, that is a type of Bakhar. History of a sect, of a particular section of a society, if the Bakhar or uh, if it is stated, it is called it is a type of Bakhar. Description of events based on mythology. Now these Bakhars can definitely be based on mythologies, giving motivation and moral values through the Bakhars. Regarding grievances, like someone if has some tale to tell or some sorrow deed to or whatever problems or difficulties they have faced, that is described in this. Then dynastic history wherein the genealogy is described of a particular dynasty, and biographies of the kings, which is the one of the most common types. Also, one of the important things that we have come across in this chapter is the various ideological frameworks, different ideologies presented by different people or the different concepts. The first amongst what we are going to discuss is colonial historiography. It was mainly written by the British officers and the Christian missionaries. Their writings reflected in their view that Indian culture was negligible importance. They ridiculed the Indian culture as perpetually backward and undeveloped. So, this colonial historiography is basically written by the British officers and the Christian missionaries, and therefore they felt that the Indian culture was not of much importance because it was it had it was backward and it was not developed, and so they criticized it. They looked down upon it. Their writings justified colonial rule. So they justified that the colonial rule was better, um, and therefore the 5 volumes of Cambridge History of India published between 1922 to 1937 CE are the examples of colonial historiography. So they believe that since the Indians were, or the Indian culture was very backward and it was undeveloped, so there was colonial rule, and that is why they justified it. They supported it that yes, the culture deserved a colonial rule, and therefore there were 5 volumes of Cambridge History of India published between 1922 and 37 CE. The next ideological framework was that of Orientalist historiography. Many European historians who had curiosity about countries in the East were known as the Orientalists. So these people were very curious, they were wanting to know more about the countries in the East, and therefore they were known as the Orientalists. A comparative study of Sanskrit and some of the European languages was conducted by these Europeans. Out of their curiosity, they tried to study and compare the languages like Sanskrit and other European languages. Their study resulted in a perception that an Indian language could be mother of all the Indo-European languages. And when they compared and when they studied the Sanskrit language and when they studied the Sanskrit language and compared it with the different European languages, they came to a conclusion, or they felt that Sanskrit or the Indian language could be the mother of all the European languages. So all the other Indo-European languages are inspired, or the different forms of the Indian language, and the Indian language is the source or the center to these other languages. Another such important ideology was nationalistic historiography. So English educated Indian historians felt the need to restore the pride of the glory of ancient Indian culture. Now, being an Indian, the patriots of our country, although they were educated in English language, they felt the necessity, or they felt that the pride of our country should be restored, it should be regained, because it was defamed. We have seen in the Orientalist historiography and the colonial historiography, or rather more in the colonial historiography, that the British officers and the Christian missionaries had defamed our culture, and to restore its pride and glory, these Indian historians, they felt that they should take some action towards it, and their writing is known as nationalist historiography. They criticize the prejudiced history of ancient India written by the British officers. So the history of ancient India, which was written by the British officers, they did not have the complete knowledge, but they had a prejudice. Prejudice means a false notion. They believed that the Indian ancient history is like this, and what they believed, on the basis of that, they had written the history. So these educated Indian historians, they felt that what the actual culture of India is should definitely be brought in front of the people, so that people could recognize, or they could evaluate and decide for themselves what is better and what is the truth of the Indian culture. And so the Indian historians wanted to create awareness among Indian masses through their writings about our rich past. Nationalistic historians tried to seek the golden era of Indian history. So now it was a golden era because our culture is definitely very rich, not only being an Indian, but otherwise also so many people in the world also do believe that the Indian culture is really great, and to restore, um, they created an awareness among the Indian masses, amongst the Indian people, through their writings about our rich past, and that is how the golden era of Indian history was written. These Indian educated historians are at times criticized for glorifying the past at length and ignoring the historical truth. So sometimes, because their motto was to get back the glory of India, therefore it is believed or it is said, or they are sometimes criticized, saying that the glory of the country was exaggerated and so many facts of the historical truth were ignored. In the post independence era, the scholars felt that there was a need or necessity to write histories of various subjects like communities, different communities, sciences, economic systems, political ideologies, etc. One such concept was given in Marxist historiography, Marxist history. Marxist history is the writings of Marxist historians focused on the means of production, modes of production, and the industrial relations. Now, is means and production and modes of production are the concepts or very important concepts related to the industrial relations, like the workers, the raw materials, and the owners of these industrial industries. The prime focus was to analyze and study the impact of very social event on people. Now they submitted the transitions within the caste system. Now earlier children, if you remember that there was a caste system, and on the basis of this caste the occupations were also decided. So now the historians study how there was a transition, like the people belonging to a particular caste were supposed to do particular occupation, but then they eventually shifted and left their occupation, traditional occupation, and they started working in the factories or the mills or the industries. Comrade Shripad Amrut Dange, the founder of Indian Communist Party, wrote a book, Primitive Communism to Slavery, which became a prominent example of Marxist historiography. Now the Indian Marxist historians were Damodar Dharmananda Kosambi, Comrade Shripad Amrut Dange, Comrade Sharad Patil, Ram Sharan Sharma. These were the prominent Marxist historians. The next concept is that of subaltern history. The seeds of subaltern history are found in Marxist historiography. Subaltern history is the history of people who are considered as the bottommost ranks of the society. Now, by the word bottommost ranks means the working class or the lower middle class, so called, you can say, and it is said that the seeds of subaltern history are found in Marxist historiography, because Marxist historiography focused on the means of production and modes of production. So it included this labor class which was focused on. Therefore, it is said that subaltern history, the seeds were sown or found in the Marxist historiography. The process of writing history should start from the bottommost rank. Italian historian Antonio Gramsci played an important role in developing this idea. Now, this idea was initiated and had a great contribution by Italian historian Antonio Gramsci, and he said that the process of writing history should start from the bottommost rank. Why he said so? Probably because this class of the society, or this contributes the maximum. If you see, the people working as laborers are more compared to the industrialists. So he felt that since this contributes to a larger number of people, therefore it should be given more importance, and the process of history should start from this bottommost rank. Ranjit Guha played an important role in establishing subaltern history as an important academic school of historiography. So, Guha, he played also an important role in establishing subaltern history because he believed and he started a different section of academic school of historiography which gave more emphasis on the subaltern history. Mahatma Phule drew attention to the exploitation of women, Shudras and Atishudras under the pretext of religion in his book Gulamgiri. Now, children, if you remember in the earlier times, there was a lot of discrimination on the basis of caste, and these Shudras and Atishudras were discriminated a lot, and there was a very ill treatment to that. So, this aspect was given attention or was brought into limelight by Mahatma Phule, and he explained, or rather he emphasized on the exploitation done towards the women and Shudras and Atishudras with an intention that this was a wrong practice and should come to an end. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, in his two books, Who Were the Shudras and The Untouchables, wrote about the injustice done to the Dalits and their significant role in shaping the cultural and political aspect of India. So, the next person to highlight the Shudras and the was Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, and through his two books, Who Were the Shudras and The Untouchables, he tried to give justice to the Dalits, and he also mentioned in his books, and he was of the opinion that the contribution of these Dalits was really great, and we cannot ignore them, as their contribution was great. And as we know that all the ingredients of the ecosystem are really very important, although they may seem to be very small, but their contribution is very important. And if this small part of the ecosystem, if it is missing, it will cause a great damage to the other concepts or other aspects. Another such important concept was that of feminist history, challenges faced by feminist historians. Now, we have seen in subaltern history itself that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and Mahatma Phule brought attention or drew attention of the people to the exploitation of women. So, the way the Dalits or the Shudras were discriminated, so were the um, women in those times. And so this concept of feminist history came into existence, and these feminist historians were also had to struggle a lot, and they had to face a lot of criticism as well, because they were also discriminated. So there were a lot of challenges faced by them, and for a long period of time, male scholars were involved in the writing of Indian history, since the role of achievements of women in history remained neglected. Um, Again, in the medieval time, we should say that the women in India were also not allowed education. They were deprived of education, just like the Dalits, and also there was a lot of discrimination. They were not allowed, or they were not. It was not a practice that the girls would come out of the house for work or for any other, even for buying things. So they were supposed to do only the household work and stay inside the house. They were deprived of studies, jobs, and the earning sources. So and because of this, for a very long time, the history was also dominated by the male scholars, and the achievements of the women were neglected. They were not given attention. The highlight To highlight this fact became the major task of feminist historians. It was a daunting task to compile and study the historical writings of women. So, this task of the historians who were neglected. Then now the historians who were feminist historians, they took this task very seriously to compile, that is to bring together and study the historical writings of the women. It was also necessary and important to rethink of women's position in history. So it was necessary, and therefore the position of women in history was to be thought again. So children, the famous feminist historians during this era, where Tarabai Shinde, the famous book written by her was Stri Purush Tulana, and it was published in 1882 and acknowledged as the first feminist book in India. And it had to face a prevalent male domination and caste system in India. It attacked basically the male domination and the caste system in India. The another feminist historian was Pandita Ramabai. She had written the book The High Caste Hindu Woman, and this book was based on the life of women and was published in 1818. The another feminist historian was Meera Kosambi. The book written by her was Crossing Thresholds: Feminist Essays in Social History. And she wrote essays on the lives of Pandita Ramabai and Dr. Rukmabai. The another feminist historian was Dr. Sharmila Rege. Her writings writing caste, writing gender was the name of her book, and reading Dalit women's testimony. So the name of the book was Writing Caste, Writing Gender, Reading Dalit Women's Testimonies. Now this book contains the essays of the autobiographies of the Dalit women. So that is all for today. I hope this will help you a lot, because all these concepts that we have discussed today are can be included in short notes or brief answers. And if your concepts are clear, you can definitely write 4 to 5 points of your own on this particular topics. Thank you so much.